So I'm going live in the hope that my live actually stays live. I've got new Wi-Fi and all of a sudden it just dropped. So I'm not going to be on long anyway, but this has been on my mind for the last few days, and I wanted to come on and talk about what my experience is of exercise training and things like that as someone that lives with cPTSD, but also from a neurodivergent perspective, being autistic, ADHD. I got sirens going on now. I haven't actually had the time to come on when the thought's been fresh on my head, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go on because I've had quite a lot on this week, but it was definitely something that I wanted to do. And today I did a spin in the gym, which was really exciting because I used to love teaching spin classes. So I thought, right, okay, it's going to be one of the things that I roll back in on. But what made me think of, how cPTSD and being AuDHD, so autistic and ADHD, affect the way that I exercise. What kind of spurred the thought was I was having a bit of a day where, I'm breaking through new levels in my business and in my personal growth journey. And sometimes when I'm moving onto a new level, my body kind of goes, I want you to stay in your uncomfortable comfort zone. So what tends to happen is that my energy just kind of shuts down. And the only way that I can kind of liken it to something is kind of like, how old school computers used to just go, just like they'd overheat and they just stop. That's kind of what it feels like. Sometimes my brain and my body would just be like, no, we just need to go and lie down. But from past experience and breaking through some levels before, I did realize that I'd been through that before, where I had that feeling, and the way that I was actually able to break through it was to move, was to exercise. So when I had that the other day and I just felt like I was completely burned out and just awful, I thought, right, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes. I'm going to go and do something on the mat, a quick non-intensive Tabata. So I quite like to use the Tabata time format, so the 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, but without the intensity in this case. And after doing that 5 minutes of just moving my body, I was like, oh, I'm okay. And I think this is something where, this is part of the reason why it's taken me a little while to go into what is really my niche, because I don't know what it is to live life or exercise without being autistic or without being ADHD or even really without being cPTSD. But because there's so many things that are just so random, like just not in the textbook, it can be really, I've been really apprehensive to come forward to be like, do you know what? I do things really, really differently because I can't just gauge it from how my body feels or by what I'm told I should be doing. I've had to do a combination of these things. So with the breaking through the new level, I know that my ways of keeping myself safe, or my we'll call them self-sabotages, but the things that sort of support me in my survival mode is, if I'm scared of reaching a new level, my brain, my body likes to reach for insomnia. It's a learned habit that I know that if I'm like apprehensive to move to the next level in my life or in my business, or I'm scared to let go, I will probably drop into a period of sleeplessness or broken sleep, because that is like my body's like go-to of, oh, that's not safe, you stay here. And knowing that in itself was really powerful, because that helped me to find safety in it instead of trying to push and change it and escape that sleeplessness. It was about finding safety within it. Um, so that was one of the examples. But again, that feeling of just not having energy and speaking power into it was something that as well is something that I can end up finding myself stuck. So that this week I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play. I'm gonna play. And another reason why I've held back, I mean, this is the me coming in and talking about things on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn and things. It's me breaking back out into talking about how I do things and how I do things differently. And it might be a little bit mind-boggling because I'm going to be saying where I feel like I don't have energy or I feel really weak, but then at this, on, then saying, that I'm lifting like 100 kilos, or, my wattage output on the bike wasn't that bad either today. And I think this is something that I'm sort of exploring and trying to understand as well. Is I was thinking about how, in terms of my health and fitness, because I don't want to just pigeonhole and say that everybody has this, but it's worth exploring the idea that sometimes I know that I can almost derail my own health and my own fitness, and even my body full stop, because of, in part, not fully, because in part, if I'm struggling with things, if I'm finding things difficult, and cPTSD, autism and ADHD are all hidden disability, all fall under hidden disability. If people don't experience them, they don't understand. So if I'm having challenges related to either cPTSD or being neurodivergent, when I was, or when I am really fit, really active, really strong, doing really impressive things, quite often I would find that I would have people coming back to me and being like, well, it can't be that bad because you can do X, Y, Z. Because relative to maybe where they personally are in their fitness journey, or just because they're pretty good numbers and stuff, there's this idea that if you can do this, then it can't be that bad. And it's something that I'm going to be exploring a little bit more in my own personal journey, and also talking to professionals that understand the actual complexities of neurodivergence and cPTSD, maybe from the medical sort of perspective, but are actually autistic and actually ADHD and things, to kind of create something and build something and figure this out. Because of course this is something that I have been doing. I mean, I started working in the fitness industry in 2018. That's a lie. 2008. I had Ruby in 2018. I started working in the fitness industry in 2008, but fitness and application of nutrition has been something that I've been doing for 15 years now. And they have been a massive part of my survival as well as thriving. I credit fitness as a large part of what helped me through some of the hardest times in my life. For me, exercise is something that when I'm feeling defeated, or when I'm feeling weak, or just like everything is going wrong, if I feel like I can't, if I feel like nothing is working, I go and get myself in the gym, or get myself in the pool, or go out for a run. And then it's there that I realize, wait a minute, you're a bad bitch and you got this. And that's why it's such a deep love for me. It's not so much about the aesthetics of it. That's a nice kickback, and for a long period of time, that was really important to me. But the deep love of it comes from how it makes me feel, and the fact that it's given me a sense of strength and capability and groundedness that I oftentimes haven't felt in life. When I first started out in fitness in my adult life, so as a teenager when I was at university, I was doing a degree in fashion design, and again, at the time didn't know I was autistic. So now it makes sense to me why I just didn't get pattern cutting. I just didn't understand, and everybody was just doing it. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Why is everybody just doing this? And this makes no sense to me. And I ended up loving being in the gym more than I did in the pattern cutting room or the design room or whatever it was that I was doing. And part of that was because, I'd lost my dad when I was 15 years old. And, it was alcohol addiction. Really, it's really hard. All the stuff to do with that, not fun. And then mum had started drinking as well in my teens. And, this was long, long before I understood what cPTSD was, or, probably before charities like NACOA existed, that support, children of parents who are addicted to alcohol and things. So I didn't know how to deal with my feelings, what to do with them, that energy that was just trapped in me, making me feel kind of angry and upset. And I felt like I didn't have any kind of control over anything. What can you do? So I'd started running. I was supposed to be getting ready for a holiday to Spain with one of my friends, was doing her placement out in Algeciras. I think she was mending sails or something. So we were going to go out and see her. So I was like, as you do, I'm going to get ready for going on holiday. And I just started going to the gym, but then I started running, and I learned on hills. So I'm not great on running on flats. And I think it's because I know there's no change in, gradient or, how you're going to run or anything like that. Maybe I just get bored. I don't know. But anyway, I learned on hills. And what I loved about that was, part of it was that, that kind of like, I have to commit, because I couldn't just like hop on the bus and go home because I was out in the middle of nowhere. I used to run the route that goes out round, oh God, what's it called? I can't remember. It's out round Inverurie anyway, but it's out that way. And what I used to do was I could run like Phoebe, so I could just flap about, or, I could like make noises or cry or sound frustrated. I could just thrash it out. And even though physically it was really demanding and it was really hard, I mean, bearing in mind, when I was a student, I used to smoke and I used to drink, and these things are not great for your health and fitness, so it was hard work, but I got that runner's high at the end of it. I'd gone into the run feeling frustrated, feeling, depressed, kind of a bit just pent up. And then I would come off of the back of this run and be like, oh my God, I feel great. I feel amazing. And that's where my love of fitness kind of came from. But that's why, in terms of, for cPTSD and for being AuDHD, fitness is stimmy for me. So if I've got any kind of energy, pent up energy, I need to release that through somatic means, through movement, through feeling. And I was having a discussion for a podcast that I'm going to do with someone about how, cPTSD and the neurodivergence. I mean, cPTSD is an acquired neurodivergence anyway, but autism, ADHD, all these things mean that I have different levels of energy at any one time. So I can't have like this rigid fitness plan that says, okay, I'm going to do this day, this day, because I don't know at any one time what my energy is going to do. I can have a rough idea, but that's why whenever I'm planning programming for myself or someone else, it's going to be so fluid, and there's going to be different options depending on what energy is available and what the desire is around it. It hasn't always been like that. I had a period of time where I was a bodybuilder, and again, my neurodivergence, I think, was key in coping really well with the rigidity of that, because I quite like eating the same thing, every day for like months, and knowing what I'm doing in a workout and having those variables. So I understand and I like the idea of routine. And when I'm planning for a specific goal or a specific outcome, being neurodivergent as well, the way that my brain looks at it, I look at so many different variables that are outside of the box that mean that I'm able to get some pretty cool results really quite quickly, and energetically friendly as well, because I'm looking at so many different variables. But in terms of like where my what I'm doing right now, where I'm just really, really enjoying myself, I still have goals that I'm working towards, but there's no real rush to them or anything like that. I'm just really enjoying myself. In a week, I will swim, I will spin, I will run, I will lift, I will do yoga, and they can be in different amounts and different times depending on the energy, the intensity that I bring to each of these. Again, it changes. At the moment, I don't have any real rigid goal, so I don't need to have anything really dialed in there. But I remember when I would program running in particular, what I quite used to like to do with my running clients was we'd be doing a lot of work that didn't involve hitting the pavement quite as often. So quite like the approach of, like Brian McKenzie say, where only some of the approach was running, and there was a lot of cross training and the different intensities and variables in there. But yeah, it's just something I was thinking about. I've went all over the place there, but it kind of explains a little bit of how I go about things. If I do have a goal and it's very set, I can dial in the planning, and I get really creative and playful with it, and I love it. But I love being able to just train for the sheer enjoyment of it. But the whole reason I'd come onto the podcast, or the podcast video, I might turn it into a podcast on the video, was because at the beginning of the week, I felt like I had no energy and I felt quite weak. And I was like, I'm going to play with this, and I'm going to see, am I really those things, or am I experiencing something that is making me feel unsafe, and can I go in and experiment? So that's exactly what I did. So on one day, no, every day this week actually that I've been to the gym, which is I think four times this week, has been to go in and just show up and see what I've got. And then I just try a little bit more. So I always have my warm up is generally 10 minutes, maybe a little bit more, mobility based. So all by moving my body, not rather than getting on a machine to do it. Excuse me. And then, so yesterday I went and did some lifting, and I was like, well, we'll just see. So I did my warm up deadlift. So I did my, I'd done all my mobility and my warm up, and then I did my 50, and I was like, okay, that was really, really easy. So I'm just going to try. I'm just going to see. I'm not going to push past my energy or what feels really hard work. And then I did 70. I was like, that felt good. Let's see if I've got 90. Did 90, and I was like, okay, cool. So I just wanted to see if I had the 100 in me, and I did. I could have probably lifted it for more than the single rep, but all I wanted to do was get the single out. And this was me from at the beginning of the day feeling like I just had nothing. Now I haven't felt awful since or anything like that. If anything, I feel like my energy is starting to level back out again. So it's a bit of, now I'm not going to say disclaimer here again. Remember that this is something that I've been doing for a very long time, personally and professionally. So don't go like cracking out major weights. This is what I do, but it's playing around with what you consider to be your warm up, and just playing around with that and seeing what you've got. If you feel exhausted, like, no, you need rest. if you find that you break out of that feeling of exhaustion, then maybe it's going to be the movement that helps bring you out of it. This is what's pulled me out of burnout before, and insomnia. And with the insomnia, it was in part, I had this hypnotherapist who had said to me, he was like, don't put sleep on a pedestal. So at the worst, my insomnia left me sleeping 2 to 3 hours a night. Most nights for about 7 to 8 months, as I had postpartum depression. I was a single mom from pregnancy. I'd lost both my parents. I'd experienced emotional and financial abuse. Things were hard. The doctors were like, you're fine. We're not going to help you. Here's some tablets, but they won't work for you because your depression is situational. Whole other podcast. But I'd went to this hypnotherapist and he was great. But yeah, that was one of the things he said. He was like, what happens with insomnia is you start to shrink your life and start obsessing over getting that perfect sleep. Kind of the same way that people that are chasing a weight goal, seem to push hitting that weight goal further away, because that obsession of getting to it almost keeps you away from it. So when I was experiencing that insomnia, a lot of setting it back in, the sleep that was, and getting my life back in track and feeling normal again, was creating that sense of feeling grounded, feeling strong, feeling capable that comes with exercise. And I'd been exercising anyway because I knew that for the little energy that I had, that exercise was not only going to give me that boost of endorphins, but it was also going to give me that pocket of energy in the day that I wouldn't otherwise have. And that was kind of like my saving grace, kept going. But the considerations with that is, as well, is not going and doing something wild. So while lifting quite heavy weights sounds really wild, for me, this is all quite normal for me. It's part of my repertoire, if you like. So in the periods of time when I'm experiencing my body and my mind kind of resisting and getting clouded, foggy in my energy, or having problems with my sleep, or experiencing a lot of emotional flashbacks and meltdowns and things like that, the considerations I have to make then are that while my body is being challenged in that way through these things, they are still taking a lot of energy from me. And in the case of, the emotional flashbacks in particular, where the muscles armor up, I'm more predisposed to injury and illness. So I have to be really careful with my choices in terms of the time and the type and the intensity of the exercise, more so than when I'm having a clean run and a clean bill of health. So there's lots of different things to kind of consider with it. But I think sometimes that feeling of being just exhausted sometimes can prevent you from even starting. Or, as I say, if you've had the same sort of experience as me, where you've maybe had people saying to you, well, if you can do this, then it can't be that bad, or you can't be having problems with, anything else to do with, the cPTSD or neurodivergence, the ways that it can kind of tax your energy and your output, or even ability to kind of be in around people and things like that. Sometimes then it can be, for me, it was easy to then sabotage my health, because I subconsciously would think, well, maybe if I'm not okay, then they'll listen. But it never happened. It didn't work. The reason why I say it and I'm talking about it now is, if I'm hitting a new level, like as I say at the moment, as I'm going through this growth journey in both my business and my life, I have been hitting that same old programming. where I'm scared to move forward. So I'm like, oh, maybe if I just stay here. So yeah, I mean, it's just food for thought. Food for thought. But I thought if I share my experience, maybe somebody's going to resonate with that. Yeah, maybe someone's going to resonate with it. But I am loving my training right now, and I'm really excited to see how my energy and my habits as a result of actually just doing what I love shifts, and what's going to happen in the next little while. This weekend is going to be very, very rested, because that was quite a lot of exercise, really good. Like I did some really good work this week, and I'm really happy with that. But I also published a journal on Amazon this week, and I've got like a load more to publish. But that was like its own breakthrough in itself, was publishing something from the vault, um, and had like potential client calls and things like that. So it's been a huge week for me. So um now it's time for me to go rest, decompress, just yeah, enjoy the weekend. But yeah, I hope you enjoy any insights from that, or just learning a little bit more about how my world works. Yeah, yeah, but have a great weekend, and I will sign out.